Hello, everyone. My name is Josh, and welcome to our podcast called Still Not Famous. I'm joined by my lovely co host today. Co host, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Nathan. I'm a good friend of Josh's, and looking forward to this podcast.
Indeed. So, this podcast itself, we're going to ultimately be talking about our mutual love of pop culture, ranging from films to games to TV and any outliers in between. Although we're primarily a pop culture podcast, I'm sure we will definitely dive into some other topics around modern cultures. Myself being a millennial and Nathan being a Gen Xer, we will look to get our different viewpoints on different things. And also, being a millennial myself, I can't promise that there won't be a millennial pause or that I won't bring my own neuroses or mental health struggles onto this podcast. But hopefully, it will be a really good listen.
And as a Gen Xer, I'm going to have to really try and remember everything that I've lived. Could be difficult, Josh.
It could be difficult, but do you know what? We're going to muddle through it regardless.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So, firstly, I think we should give people a bit of a background on basically how we have ended up on this podcast and how we essentially know each other. I mean, would you like me to go first?
Yeah,
Or-
yeah. I'll let you explain.
Okay, so I met Nath. So, cast your mind back, listeners, to the pandemic in 2020. It feels almost sick to say it was 6 years ago, but alas, it was. So it was around September time in 2020. So during the pandemic period, I left my previous job for another job and it didn't really work out. And I was working little odd jobs here and there, but obviously with a global crisis on our hands, work was few and far in between. I got contacted by a recruiter who told me for a upcoming job at a call center. And then I walk into this call center, and who is my trainer on the very first day? It is the lovely person sat opposite.
Uh-huh.
And essentially, you trained me on my first day. We essentially became co-workers and friends. We would actually sit there on our lunch breaks and essentially talk about what films, TV shows we've watched, trying to get our different opinions on different things. Fun fact, I actually remembered that you watched Nurse Ratched when we first met, and you were telling me all about it. And do you know what? 6 years later, I've still not watched it, I'm afraid.
Oh, you're dead to me. You're dead.
But not work aside, became very good friends outside of work. My first impression of you was, he seems very nice and chilled. And when you mentioned that you were very into your pop culture and very into your films and all of that, I knew that we would get on very well. Unless you started slagging off everything I loved, then I knew you probably wouldn't. But yeah, something I'll just give listeners a bit of a background as to. I figured what I'd do is I'd sprinkle in one of my nice little favourite memories. Now, I know we like to riff on each other a lot, but I'm actually going to go with a sentimental one.
Oh.
So, as I've previously explained, this job started at the back end of 2020. I'd been out of the job game for a little bit, and it's kind of like all my social skills and confidence had regressed because I'd just been out of work for so long. And I remember coming in one morning and you were like, "Oh, hi Josh, how are you?" And I literally just walked up to you and I was like, "Nath, like my anxiety's through the roof. I don't know what I'm doing. Help me." And you literally, it must have been really maniacal to watch. But obviously I was on the other end of it. So you sat me down. You were like, "No, you've got this. You're fine. Like, you're better than you think." And do you know what? It actually really calmed me down. And it's always something I really appreciated. And it kept me in the game and kept me in the job. So yeah.
That and
so-
plenty of tea. Tea and biscuits.
Oh, do you know what? Second favourite memory was when you were training me. I'm not sure if you remember, but I actually brought in a little packet of shortbread I got at like Asda. And we just sat there in between calls you were training me on, just dunking our shortbreads into our tea. Well, your coffee, my tea. But yeah.
Well, I'm just glad that you hung around. I mean, can you remember some of the people that I would train where they wouldn't even last half a day? One of them, I think, half hour stood up and walked out. So I think you did well. Yeah.
Yeah, I do remember this person, and it was surreal to watch. I'm not gonna lie.
No, I must have bored them silly.
So yeah. So do you have anything further you'd like to add in our background, our history, how we know each
no,
other?
I'll just say my first impressions of you. Yeah, I just thought you're really quiet and very kind, and like you say, we definitely shared a common interest in the movies and films and cinema and God, blimey, I think we bored ourselves silly, didn't we? Quite, daily talking through it all, but. Yeah, I think fond memory wise, there's probably too many. I can't really think of one in particular because I'm going to go all rubbish here and just say every day was a fun memory with you, Josh.
Do you know what? It's a cop out, but I'll take it because you didn't mention it. You didn't mention anything bad. So
No. Well, we're going to try and keep this PC, because if we're talking bad things, I've got loads I can say on you, but that's another podcast.
maybe the bad ones can be a future episode.
Yeah,
And we can start off from like least bad, fairly tame. Like maybe one day I was just a bit like snippy because I'd not slept that much the night before, and then we can get on to the really bad things.
Yeah, exactly. No, let's do it.
Speaking of bad things, listeners, I'll already tell you what my one is. It's when Nath handed his notice in, and it was like stabbing a knife through my heart.
Oh,
I was happy for you, and do you know what? Like, we all move on. Am I still a bit resentful? I mean, probably.
well, look, we're still in touch, and we're here now doing a podcast, so
Exactly.
You know,
it all works itself out.
that's it. It all led to this one moment in time now.
Exactly. We're here after, admittedly, a very long work day.
Yeah, definitely feeling it tonight.
When I got in the car to drive here, I was like, I'm tired. I don't think I'm going to be on my A game, but I can't back out now. so here we are.
Yeah, we got no Red Bull. Oh,
Red Bull was well, no, not Red. Well, Red Bull and a Monster was a favourite at our old office.
yeah. By the gallons.
Probably kept them afloat.
Yeah.
But anyway, before we waffle on any further, I suppose we should actually, to tie back into our podcast name, Still Not Famous, we should probably dive into, well, how do we relate to the title? Why are we still not famous? I mean, do you want to go first this time round, or do you want me to?
No, I'll let you lead this.
Okay, so the reason I am not famous, listeners, is because I actually have no one singular talent. and just to pre-warn you, when you'll probably realise as we go more and more into these podcasts, I am a very self-deprecating person. I'll sit there and I'll be like, I'm talentless, like lol. But it's going to sound bad. I am very mediocre to good at quite a lot of things, but I don't have one singular talent where I'm like, an unknown prodigy at something. Like I've never picked something up and it's like, I'm gonna be like, rich and famous off of this one niche that I have. I was actually speaking to Nath the other week. Now, we are before we go any further, we are a very liberal podcast. I myself am part of the LGBTQIA+, and Nath is an ally. And
Ally.
well, you better be, because we're doing a podcast together. if this turns out you're homophobic, then I'm just going to hit stop right now.
Oh yeah, no, we're good. Carry on. I'm an ally.
So, essentially, it's an ongoing joke, but basically to myself. I don't really say it to any other family members, but my dad and his brothers, they all have a gay son. Now, I suppose you could argue it's genetic, but that's a whole other podcast. So each of my gay cousins are insanely talented. Now, to give you an idea, one of them can sing opera really well, and is living a really nice life in London. Another one is very artistic. I see some of their artwork on like Instagram and whatnot, and I'm just my mind's blown at what they can draw. And then the third one is a really talented, really successful CEO. He currently he did live in Texas, but recently moved to Santa Fe, but ultimately is going to be moving to Canada to also be a CEO of somewhere over there. So I look at all of these gay cousins that I have, and I'm like, oh, they're all so insanely talented. And then I'm like, what can I do? Well, I'm a very good overthinker. I'm very good at having anxiety. I'm very good at being awkward. But unfortunately, those do not translate into things that make you famous unless by accident. And I've not accidentally become famous yet.
Yeah.
So
It's like you're the runt of the litter, isn't it? Out of all you and all your cousins. So you're going to have to step up your A game, Josh.
do you know what? I low-key thought it, but hearing someone else say it out loud, ouch. Do you know what? I say these things, and it's not like I'm not envious in like I'm angry at any of them in any way. If anything, I'm just envious of like they're so talented. I wish I was talented. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it.
So the long and short of it is, I'm mediocre to good at a lot of things. Do I have one set thing I'm good at? Not really. Again, if having anxiety and overthinking, was a competitive sport or something, gold medals all round. But unfortunately, not. So that is why I am on this podcast, and that is why I am still not famous. Well, so I would love to hear your take on why you're not famous.
Well, I as you already know, I spent many years playing music with different bands, and quite a few years, in fact, over 30. And fortunately, I've not ever got anywhere with it in that respect. I've got music on Spotify, but I don't get many listeners, put it that way. So I don't know if it's something to do with the music, but you know what? I mean, I've watched quite a few friends over the years make a successful living out of the music, and I think in my defence, I just haven't been in the right place at the right time, or if I'm honest with myself, I'm just shit. But yeah, no, we got this podcast going, so it's hopefully get something from this, eh?
Well, you just said, I mean, I suppose, like, right out the gate, we've broken our no swearing clause, but hey-ho.
Oh, yeah. That's it.
But maybe our first review will be, this is shit.
Yeah.
and then maybe that's just the brand. We just carry on.
That's it.
We just keep up.
Yeah.
I will keep up my mediocrity, and you will keep up your being shit. And, together, maybe it'll be a really good pairing.
Well, I think, we can brand this and just let the merchandise roll out.
I will say to the listeners, you mentioned being in a band, but I don't think you actually mentioned once your band name.
What, to you or to the...
Well, obviously I know, but I mean to the listeners.
Okay, well, yeah. The most recent band I did was a band called the Death Alley Drivers, and it was like a moody rock and roll thing, Back in the 90s, I did a band called Junior Loaded, which was a rap metal ensemble. And in the 2000s, I did a punk band, a garagey punk band, and we were called the Squids. Got me tattoo.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, actually, funny enough, as well as doing this with you at the minute, I'm now started writing songs with one of my oldest collaborators from when I originally started. So hopefully there might be some new shit music coming your way.
So what you're saying is, I'm just, a temporary thing, and then once your music actually takes off, you're like, see ya.
Yeah, like a rebound, isn't it? I just.
Well, if your music does ever become famous, I'm not saying I want money or anything, but maybe VIP tickets.
Yeah, well, we'll see what we can do. See what we can do.
And I want a shout out on whatever TV program you went on going, Josh Clark, he sat there and he believed in me.
Yeah, maybe it might be The Word. Is The Word still going? No, I don't think. No. I just realised what I've said. I think that's something from my generation. Do you remember The Word?
I honestly can't say it was ever anything on my radar. Not to say it didn't exist when I was growing up. I just, to my knowledge, no.
I don't know when that finished, but it was a big cultural thing. It used to be on Friday night, so you'd get him from the pub and you'd be out, and and it's quite anarchic, and they have guests on and celebrities and silly stuff and bands, and yeah, it was really cool.
The
Check it out.
the only word I'm familiar with, apart from people going word,
Yeah.
is the Trashmen song "Bird is the Word." That's because it's used in a very famous Family Guy episode. Peter Griffin becomes
Family Guy.
obsessed with "Bird is the Word."
I love that. I know the one you're on about now. Yeah.
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 So so there you go, listeners. That's a deep dive into, well, not so deep. It was probably about 5 minutes into why we're not famous. We are going to touch upon some likes and dislikes in a minute. What I think would be fun is just to, so our next episode is going to be called Back to the Future, where we talk about pop culture from our childhood, and a bit of it will probably be touched in our next episode. But I'd just like to ask, your love of pop culture, is it something you've always had? Is it something that's been particularly birthed from something? Or is it just, were you in a very pop culture household when you grew up? I'd love to know where it came from.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, not in the household. I just think, obviously, I was born in the late 70s, raised in the 80s, lived through the 90s. So the whole 80s thing, it was, yeah, I don't know. I've always been geeky. So we were quite lucky to have all the Star Wars and the Indiana Jones and the, well, I suppose like the Spielberg, the Lucas, Zemeckis, and obviously there was no streaming. There was everything needed to be VHS or whatever. So, I don't know. I just love films. I love storytelling. I love visuals. And again, I think the 80s, apparently like the 70s is the best, apparently the best decade for cinema.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know. I love the 80s. And I think with the 80s, they started using computers. And as much as I'm not a big CGI fan, it definitely opened up a different storytelling, I think, with movies and where they could go. So, it was, yeah. I definitely wasn't a household. I had a sister who was younger than me, at least 7 years younger than me, so we didn't really bond over anything. I had a few friends, and we were all quite nerdy and into the same things: the Star Wars, like I say, the Indiana Jones, and liked a lot of the cartoons as a kid, and the Transformers and Thundercats, things like that. It was, I don't know, just discovered it myself. Still am just a big kid, really, and I love it all,
Oh, I love it though.
Yeah. What about you?
So I don't think mine was birthed from one particular place either. Both, I suppose mine kind of, the origins come from both of my siblings, but in different ways. So my brother was at the time a big gamer. He used to have like a PlayStation and whatnot that we used to play about on. He used to play games like Metal Gear Solid. Oh, it goes back even further than the PlayStation. He used to have an N64. Do you remember an N64?
I do, yeah.
Yeah,
I do.
Looking back, I'm surprised I don't have like deformed hands from using that controller. By the by. So he used to have like GoldenEye on the N64. He used to play another one called Vigilante 8, which was basically you were in cars that were like modded with like weapons, and you'd like try and destroy the other one. So kind of my love for gaming kind of came from gaming with my brother, but also I had it's one of my mum's favourite stories about me, that she used to give us allowance money each month, and I saved all of mine up so I could buy a Super Nintendo. And it had a Mario game on it called Mario All Stars, and it had like a load of different Mario games.
Wow.
Like, yeah.
Do you remember how much it was that you saved up?
I have no idea, because I think at the time I knew it was expensive, but I didn't have a concept as to how expensive it was. I just relied on my mum to take me to. It was a place in a location called Wellingborough called Electronic Universe, and she just took, like, when she knew I had enough, she took me in there, and yeah, walked away with my first Super Nintendo. So that's kind of where my love of kind of gaming culture comes from. I suppose in regards to stuff like TV, it would be, so me and my sister, so this is how long ago it was when we were at my dad's. My dad would have a TV upstairs in his bedroom, and he'd have a little antenna. And if your signal was wonky, you had to physically move it. Sometimes the signal would still be wonky, and basically just one of you would have to hold it and just kind of hope for the best, or you just be like, oh, it's a bit crackly, but that's the best we're going to get. So we used to sit around and we used to watch early to late 2000 shows, so stuff like Desperate Housewives.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I'm surprised if anyone was shocked when I came out, whatever. So we would watch that, and then we'd also watch a bit of reality TV, so stuff like Big Brother. She used to like one called Shipwrecked. So I'd sit around and watch quite a bit of TV with her. Also, she'd watch stuff like, this was on MTV. This might be a bit after your time, but have you ever heard of one called The Hills?
I don't think I did, no.
Basically, it was like, let's make a reality show on attractive people in in Hollywood, essentially, or Los Angeles. And, the struggles of their life. And the struggles would be like, oh no, like, my boyfriend cheated on me again. But it had like an air of like, when you watch it when you were younger, you're like, oh, this is really intriguing viewing. But when you watch it when you're older, through the kind of like more mature lens, you're like, oh, this is so fake.
Yeah.
You're like that. I remember sitting there watching one episode with her when I was starting to wise up to it, and two of the characters are like, oh, our boyfriends are being mean, and it was like, let's go to Vegas, and they're like, yeah. And I remember sitting there and I turned to my sister and I went, okay, this has to be fake because they have jobs, allegedly. They wouldn't just be able to just up and leave and go to Vegas. I mean, I'd love for that to be a reality in modern day. Maybe if you're rich, you can get away with it. They wouldn't just be able to like ditch their jobs and go. And I remember her sitting next to me and her going, oh yeah, I didn't think of that. But we would also watch like a lot of trash TV, like soaps, like, usual EastEnders, Emmerdale, Hollyoaks. Speaking of Hollyoaks, I've been on a podcast discussing a few Hollyoaks episodes. So shout out to Tamsin from Pop Goes the Tam Tam. That's the name of her podcast.
Nice.
And she was the one that kind of got me into this in the first place.
I've got her to thank for this then, yeah.
It all started with a Reddit message. It was essentially, or a Reddit comment even. We were sat there and she wrote a little thing about John Paul and Craig from Hollyoaks. So again, probably after your time, but very famous LGBT couple from that soap. Back in the days when LGBT couples kind of like were the comic relief characters or barely in it. And she was like, oh, hi, do you want to reach out and have a discussion about it to like anyone on this Reddit post? And I was just like, oh, I want to, but I'm a bit nervous. I'm going to be a bit rubbish at it. And she was very nice and said, no, like, by all means, come on. And she hosted me on it, and yeah, it went really well. So, yeah. So,
it's funny you say about, I mean, I remember, I don't know what year it was, but the Beth Jordache kissing the other girl scene in Brookside, and it was before 9 o'clock, and everybody lost their shit and was complaining and saying about the kids at school the next day, what it's going to teach them. And then fast forward now, and kids are at school with their phones and videos of extreme stuff, and violence. And it's crazy, isn't it? Where, like I say, 30 odd years later, that just seems like nothing.
Yeah, if anything, like, as bad as it sounds, it's almost going to kind of sound like a bit tame.
Yeah. But man, I remember it. It was in the news, and everybody, just lost their minds over it. Can't believe it's been shown before 9 o'clock.
I always find that logic really funny, because if it's so easy to convert people by showing a same-sex couple kissing on TV, then surely they would just have to look at a straight couple kissing, and it's like, oh, I've been converted back.
That's good logic. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
Yeah. What about books? Did you ever read any books, or graphic novels or comics or?
Okay, so through a modern lens, this is going to sound bad, but I did read a lot of Harry Potter back in the day. I was very much one of those Harry Potter people. So the obsession with it started, I think I was in year 4 at school, and my teacher, someone called Miss Capel, read it out as part of like reading time, and she'd read like half an hour's worth each week. And so that was the Philosopher's Stone. And from there, I would then read the Chamber of Secrets. And then my Auntie Carol got me the Prisoner of Azkaban for one of my birthdays. And I think people just ended up getting me them for my birthdays or just as gifts. And my mum's ex got me the very last one, the Deathly Hallows, the day it came out. I think he went to some place in Higham and got it. And I was surprised he got it because it was literally the day it came out. And I literally had to read it from start to finish. So ultimately, I wouldn't have things spoiled for me when I went into school the following week. So those were my big kind of focus around books. But when it comes to my reading and whatnot, I do definitely tend to lean more towards the fantasy and the sci-fi more than anything else. I don't mind a good thriller. I think just when it comes to, and this is the same for games as well, I'll play a lot of RPGs and fantasy. I just kind of almost like that escape from reality.
Yeah.
It's, if I read something and it's too much like my real life, I'm like, oh, like, this isn't exciting enough.
Go back to
essentially. What about?
I was going to say, go back to your Harry Potter. Which was your favourite and still is your favourite book out of the series to read?
So it was The Prisoner of Azkaban, which from what I've read online is a very popular choice.
Yeah.
It is a very good book, which unfortunately the film itself was decent, but it cut out a lot
Well,
of the
that's
really
what I
good
was just
good
about
bits.
to say. Film-wise then, so it's clearly not that. Which is your favourite out of the films?
Do you know what? This is going to sound really unpopular because what I'm going to pick is never one at the top of people's lists, but I am going to tie it into a real-life story. So it's The Deathly Hallows Part 1. And a lot of people are like, oh, it's boring because it essentially sets up the Deathly Hallows Part 2, essentially. And while I can understand why people think that, this is going to make me sound like a really depressing person, but I like how dark it is. Like, the very first couple of films are very kind of like kiddie, and then as soon as like the first person it dies, it suddenly like tone switches.
Yeah.
And yeah, The Deathly Hallows Part 1, but the reason it ties into it, I'm not sure if you remember this story from my wedding, but my best woman, a girl called Clara, shout out to Clara, and also one of my other best friends, Audrey. So when she first went to Ipswich Uni, I went down to visit her in November. I was jobless, so I had to get the bus down there, which took bloody ages. And when we got there, we watched it once, and then the next day it was like, oh, we've got nothing on. Should we go watch it again? It's like, yeah, I quite enjoyed it. Why not? And then my last day I was down there, we were stuck for something to do again, and it was like, oh, I need to waste some time before essentially we go home. And then she went, well, if we watch it again, that actually passes enough hours. So we're like, yeah, let's go watch it. So we ultimately watched it at the cinema 3 times, but it's a really like happy memory I associate it with.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So The Deathly Hallows Part 1 is my favourite film, but it just edges out The Chamber of Secrets, which is my second favourite film.
I like all the films. I've never read any of the books, but I definitely love the films.
I do feel like with modern day and the stuff J.K. Rowling has come out with, it does put a bit of a taint on it, unfortunately. It's a bit like, I enjoy it, but I feel guilty about enjoying it. And a bit like, if ever I see it on TV or whatnot, it's like, should I watch this? Like, it's a really nice childhood memory, but unfortunately it's tied to someone who has become quite hateful in their later years in life. And not just, it's not like a difference of opinion, like, oh, she likes coffee and I like tea. It's her opinions are quite hateful, to be honest. So it's a bit like, it's a bit hard to like overlook.
Yeah.
So wasn't really a massive comic person, which kind of almost sounds shocking in this day and age, considering you have stuff like the MCU and the DCEU. I was never really a comic person. What about yourself, like in terms of books or films?
I used to like comics. I wasn't a massive geeky fan and buying comics every week, but when I did, when I was 13, I liked the Daredevil comics. So me and my friend, we used to go out, and there used to be a shop in town. I think it was above a video store, and they sold comics, and he would buy the Punisher issues, and I bought Daredevil. I don't know why I bought Daredevil. Something drew me to it, I think, and so that was kind of that. But probably in later years, or more recent years, I definitely gone out. I've read a lot of Alan Moore's, being obviously a local.
I was going to say Alan Moore is quite local to both of us. Yeah.
So I've read quite a lot of his stuff, and I kind of got into the more adulty. There was an imprint, I think they're not called it anymore, Vertigo, which was some sort of imprint of what do you call it, DC. But I think it was more adulty stuff, more violent and. But I love it. Yeah, I love all the work that goes into it. I suppose like with films and any art. I think with a comic book, you've got a writer, you've got an artist, you've got a colorist, you've got letterers. You've got all these people involved, and I think it's such a collaborative effort. I think there's a few people that do it all on their own. I can't think what his name is. The guy who did Sweet Tooth, that they made a series of.
I know who you mean, but the name is escaping me.
Yeah. I think he does everything himself. I think he collaborates as well, but I think there's quite a lot involved, with creating a comic or a graphic novel. So, yeah, kudos to them people. But
just before we move on, I'd just like to bring it back to Alan Moore for a minute.
Oh yeah.
So, the other day I actually watched the film V for Vendetta.
Oh, okay.
And you know what? Very good film. Like, I think I enjoy it the more I watch it. But also, rewatching it is kind of like, it's getting a bit close to some scary, like, real world events. Like, it just hits a bit close to home. But, like with all Alan Moore adaptations, I looked it up and it was like, Alan Moore hates it. Yeah, of course he does. Someone I used to work with, someone they knew, I can't remember if it was a relative or a friend, did Alan Moore's accounts, allegedly. And apparently, like, nice, but could be grumpy.
Yeah.
Was the summary. Yeah.
Yeah. I hear the same thing. I know a few people, acquaintances of him, and they say the same thing. Nice guy.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Well, we've been yammering on for over half an hour. I think before we wrap up this little intro episode, I say little, again, we've been on it for over half an hour. Do you want to touch upon any likes or dislikes in within the pop culture, film culture, gaming culture, book culture, whatever you want to call it, realm?
Yeah, I don't know. I think, I mean, the only thing, like, I dislike is like people that are horrible to others. I think, especially in modern day now, we're all at a computer or on a phone, and I just don't like how people are horrible to each other, and especially if they haven't even met them. The amount of abuse maybe like celebrities get because they don't like the film they're in or the music they made or whatever. But then it's even a bit closer to home, isn't it? People hide behind their keyboards and abuse. But listen, I'm a big believer in karma. You do good things and good things will happen to you. Do bad things and bad things will happen. The whole "my name is Earl" spiel, but karma's a bitch. But.
I was gonna say you do bad things and you become president of the United States.
Yeah.
Do you know what? My answer is going to be very similar to yours. I was going to say modern society. Now, I was going to narrow it down to just one thing. I was going to say things like X, formerly known as Twitter. But it does tie into your point of, I feel like at the moment we're in a very almost rage-baiting society where people will say things just for a reaction.
Yeah.
Like they will go out of their way to be horrible. And it crosses, I think there's a very fine line of if you're with friends and you're very bantery with your friends, then banter can be a funny thing. Whereas a lot of people cross the line and they'll call people like slurs and whatnot, all over like the difference of an opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. I mean, for me, it was, I always thought that was the sort of football mentality of, rival teams ripping each other, with abuse, but it seems to have spilled out into everywhere, really, now. That kind of terrorist, everybody's like a terrorist yob, like baying for everybody's blood, and nobody wants to listen. Nobody wants to listen to each other. They think they're right, and they're not willing to listen or try and accept that somebody else has got another opinion. Again, be if it's right or wrong. It's only for
I
you to
think
decide.
you've hit the nail on the head. People just cannot accept. I don't know what the circumstances are. I think COVID and the whole kind of like lockdowns and going through a global crisis did put a lot of people mentally through the ringer.
Oh, definitely.
Like, it really showed me who was willing to sacrifice and who wasn't willing to be at least mildly inconvenienced.
Yeah.
But I feel like these days, it's very few and far in between. Someone will have an opinion, and you'll be like, I'm going to challenge that opinion. And have you thought about this, this, and this? And so the person they're saying it to goes, do you know what? I haven't actually thought about this. I'm going to go away and weigh up whether this modifies my opinion or not. People, if anything, if they're challenged, they will just double down.
Yeah, that's it. Nobody likes to be challenged, and they can't comprehend if somebody's got a different opinion, have they, to themselves. And like you say, there's plenty of. You don't even have to research. You just need to listen, I think, because even if you research, you're not 100% guaranteed what you're reading is accurate. But if you listen to people that are involved or have experiences, then it's the best thing you can take and learn from someone else, and try and form maybe another opinion,
Yeah. Do you know what? I 100% agree. Probably why we get on so well.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. That and the biscuits.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Can't forget the biscuits.
Eating biscuits.
So, yeah. We both talked about a dislike, but we didn't actually talk about a like. Maybe we're very negative people.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we got a few in, didn't we? We talked about the movies and the games and gaming, and yeah. But we can talk about that in another episode.
Of course. So just before we sign off for our first episode, just to make you listeners aware, so we do have a couple planned out. Our very next one, as I referenced earlier in this episode, is going to be called Back to the Future. So essentially, we are going to be reliving pop culture moments from our childhood. When I say childhood, I think it's safe to say from when we were young children. So I'd probably say teens, early 20s. So that's fair.
Well, like I say, I've got to try and remember. So mine might be sporadically across a couple of decades, but I'll have to take a pot guess at which one is which.
As long as it's from the past, it will count.
Yeah, it'll be definitely the past, way in the past.
But we're essentially going to go through basically what these pop culture moments were, what ones we liked, what ones we necessarily disliked, and then also essentially how it shaped our overall childhoods, our overall opinions on these different topics. And yeah, and then episode 3, aptly titled by Nathaniel, Who Do You Love and Who's Loving You? We are going to talk about
The Running Man.
we are going to talk about essentially dating in the modern climate and in the past climate, how that factors into different facets around pop culture. And I'm not going to lie to you, we are probably going to round it up with some dating horror stories. So I think that one's going to be a fun one to listen to, even if you just skip all the way to the end. I
haven't got any horror stories. Mine were all perfect.
I can tell you're lying.
We'll find out.
It's going to be, yours is going to be, God, like, there's more bad ones than there are good ones.
No, I'm not sure. I'll have to get some testimonies.
All of mine are going to be like, so there was this time I was on Grindr. They're all going to start with that sentence. So yeah, so before we wrap up, do you have any other comments or any words of wisdom?
No, I just want to say thank you, Josh. You've been great.
Oh, and thank you for agreeing to do this with me.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant.
I don't know what time of day everyone is listening to this, so I'm going to wrap up by saying good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, and we'll speak to you soon.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye.